just gotta listen.
Real talk that we talk about. Always talking.
You just gotta listen.
Yo, welcome back to your most favorite podcast, Truth Talks. I'm your host, Crazy Bone.
The co-host, Keith G.
And if you have not already subscribed to our show, please do so. You know what I'm saying? It's greatly appreciated. Also follow us on IG at This Is Truth Talks _ between each word. And if you have any questions about the literature that you hear me reading on the show and you want to find out how you can acquire it, you can email us at truthtalksonlytruth@gmail.com. Again, that's truthtalksonlytruth@gmail.com. So today we're going to be speaking about another very interesting topic, very deep, try to shed some light on this, and then we're going to be talking about the symbol of the cross. We're going to talk about that. We're going to speak of the origin of the cross. We're going to touch on how the translation of the word was misinterpreted, and religious leaders never really bothered to explain to their followers that this was the case. And we will talk about how the cross symbol should not be used in worshiping God at all. So getting right down to it, to start off, let's look at the word cross. The definition, it says, the device on which Jesus Christ was executed is referred to by most of Christendom as a cross. The expression is drawn from the Latin crux. So that's the definition right there. And we read the first two paragraphs of this article. It says, and pay close attention to this. It says the Greek word rendered cross in many modern Bible versions is stauros. In classical Greek, this word meant merely an upright stake or pale. Later, it also came to be used for execution stake having a cross piece. The Imperial Bible Dictionary acknowledges this, saying, the Greek word for cross, or stauros, properly signified a stake, an upright pole, a piece of paling on which anything might be hung or which might be used in impaling a piece of ground. Even amongst the Romans, the crux for which our cross is derived appeared to have been originally an upright pole. Was that the case in the connection with the execution of God's Son? It is noteworthy that the Bible also uses the word xylon to identify the device used. A Greek English lexicon by Little and Scott defines this as meaning wood cut and ready for use, firewood, timber, etc., piece of wood, log, beam, post, cudgel, club, stake on which criminals were impaled, or impaled of live wood, tree. It also says in the New Testament of the cross, and cites Acts 5:30 and 10:39 as examples. However, in those verses, KJRS, JB, and DY translate xylon as tree. Let me see. And I'll go back and explain those abbreviations that I just gave. Those abbreviations are different versions of the Bible, like KJ is King James, and like different versions. So I'll go back. And so it says the book, The Non-Christian Cross by J.D. Parsons says that there is not a single sentence in any of the numerous writings forming the New Testament which, in the original Greek, bears even indirect evidence to the effect that the stauros used in the case of Jesus was other than an ordinary stauros, much less to the effect that it consisted not of one piece of timber, but of two pieces nailed together to form a cross. It is not a little misleading upon the part of our teachers to translate the word stauros as cross, when rendering the Greek documents of the church into a native tongue, and to support that action by putting cross in our lexicons as the meaning of stauros, without carefully explaining that was at any rate not the primary meaning of the word in the days of the apostles, did not become its primary signification till long after, and became so then, if at all, only because, despite the absence of corroborative evidence, it was for some reason or another assumed that the particular stauros upon which Jesus was executed had that particular shape. Thus, the weight of evidence indicates that Jesus died on an upright stake and not on the traditional cross. So, I hope a lot of y'all paid attention to that, because what I was reading, because we're going to go back over it, though, you know what I'm saying? But,
Word.
Now, in Greek, the word cross is stauros. Stauros simply means an upright stake or straight up and down pole. It's even translated as tree. And there's also evidence that this stake was used to execute criminals back then. They didn't clarify the true translation of the word cross, and that's where all the confusion came in at. And the cross was if they had the right definition, the right translation of the word, if they told people the correct translation, it would have came out as stauros, and stauros is a straight pole. Now, one thing I want to do, I want to go back and look at these Bible verses and compare them. Let's go back and look at the Bible scriptures that were cited, and we're going to read first Acts 5:30 from the New World Translation Bible. And in the New World Translation Bible, Acts 5:30 reads like this. It says, "The God of our forefathers raised up Jesus, whom you killed, hanging him on a stake." This is the New World Translation. This is what it says. Now, the King James Version says this. In Acts 5:30, in King James Version, it said, "The God of our forefathers raised up Jesus, whom ye slew, hanged on a tree." Then the Revised Standard Version of Acts 5:30 says, "The God of our forefathers raised Jesus, whom you killed, by hanging on a tree." Then in Acts 5:30, in the Jerusalem Bible, it says, "The God of our forefathers raised up Jesus, whom you slew and hanged him on a tree." Then in the Douay-Rheims Bible, Acts 5:30 says, "The God of our forefathers The God of our forefathers hath raised up Jesus, whom you put to death, hanging him on a tree." You see how every single one of those versions and these versions of and these Bibles say the same thing. They just change, as the language of the people change, but they say the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And somewhere they stopped translating the word for what it was. Instead, started having people thinking it was a cross and it was like this, when it wasn't like that. Because that symbol, as we're going to find out as we read more, this symbol came from somewhere way before Jesus. And it's proof of this. It's a lot of proof. Definitely.
I mean, we gonna learn up on these kind of things too, and I particularly believe it's a cross. But see, what I believe, you know what I'm saying, and this is, I'm glad this subject will be here because it's the right way of going through the Word of God. You know what I'm saying? Not as no debate or anything like that. Mm-hmm. One thing I would like to point out, this is almost kind of a extension of the last episode that we had just did, last week or whatever it is, because different pronunciations or different ways or different symbols that it would think like. So if it would be a stake, or if someone would say it's a tree, or someone would say it's a cross that Christ passed away on. Now, we'd be arguing about those things, or people will let those kind of discrepancies hold against one another. And that's another one of the divides that Satan likes to use too. Because the most important thing that is that he died for our sins and that he rose up with all power to forgive us of
Exactly.
those things. So those, usually in my mind I say, oh no, it wasn't a this and that. Those things we point out, and we point out what far as what we know and different things like that. But the most important part is that he did die and that he did raise up. Because I've seen it saying a tree before. I've seen it say a cross. You know what I'm saying? So it does those kinds of.
But the thing is that, but this is what's important. If a certain word means a certain thing, that's what it means. You cannot use this word and not tell people the real meaning of this word is this. It's not this what y'all thinking about, because that's what people are walking around praying through as an idol.
Oh yeah, if somebody's praying through it, or if it's anything other than something that reminds you of what Christ has done for you, you know what I'm saying? That's a different thing. But a tree, they may say, because wood is made out of a tree. So his arms is out and he got holes in his hands. He's stretched out into a form of what we would call a cross. Is it a cross? You know what I'm saying? I was not there, but I'm saying those kind of things will have us to get hung up on those kind of things, and that's what would cause a divide.
But they're not to. This is not meant to people to get hung up. It's for people to wake up and look at what the Bible really says. And what I'm going to read now explains where the origins of the cross came from.
Right.
This is what it says. It says, various objects dating from periods long anterior to the Christian era have been found marked with crosses of different designs in almost every part of the world. India, Syria, Persia, and Egypt having yielded numberless examples. The use of the cross as a religious symbol in pre-Christian times and among non-Christian peoples may probably be regarded as most universal, and in very many cases it was connected with some form of nature worship. The shape of the two-beam cross had its origin in ancient Chaldea and was used as the symbol of God Tammuz, being in the shape of the mystic Tau, the initial of his name. In that country and in Agylaeans, including Egypt, by the middle of the 3rd century AD, the churches had either departed from or had travestied certain doctrines of the Christian faith. In order to increase the prestige of the apostate ecclesiastical system, pagans were received into the churches apart from regeneration by faith, and were permitted largely to retain their pagan signs and symbols. Hence the Tau or T, in its most frequent form with the cross, peace Lord, was adopted to stand for the cross of Christ. It is strange, yet unquestionably a fact, that in ages long before the birth of Christ, and since then, in lands untouched by the teachings of the church, the cross has been used as a sacred symbol. The Greek Bacchus, the Tyrian Tammuz, the Chaldean Baal, and the Norse Odin were all symbolized to their votaries. Was all symbolized to their votaries by a cruciform device, the cross, in ritual. Let me see. It says the cross, in the form of the crux ansata, was carried in the hands of the Egyptian priests and pontiff kings as the symbol of their authority as priests of the sun god, and was called the sign of life. Various figures of crosses are found everywhere on Egyptian monuments and tombs, and are considered by many authorities as symbolical either of the phallus, a representation of the male sex organ, or of Koshin. In Egypt, tombs, the crux ansata, cross with a circle or handle on top, is found side by side with the phallus, a short history of sex worship. The last paragraph says, these crosses were used as symbols of the Babylonian sun god, and are first seen on a coin of Julius Caesar, 100 from 100 to 44 BC, and then on a coin struck by Caesar's heir Augustus, 20 BC. On the coins of Constantine, the most frequent symbol is, but the same symbol is used without but the same symbol is used without surrounding circle, and with the 4 equal arms vertical and horizontal. And this was the symbol specially venerated as the solar wheel. It should be stated that Constantine was a sun god worshiper and would not enter the church till some quarter of a century after the legend of his having seen a cross in heaven. So that's why it's so important for people to know where the cross comes from. Because when God says no idols, bro, people lost their lives for doing that. People lost their lives for making golden calves and saying that like this sign of the cross that they've created has misled people to thinking they need this cross to be next to Jesus or next to God when they do not.
Yeah, it's 100% accurate when you're saying you don't need no symbol, no nothing to show your belief in God. That's 100%. You know what I'm saying? And people have taken things far. You know, people lost their life. You know what I'm saying? And lost their connection with God by going and having pagan things. So he did say, do not have I don't need you to replicate nothing that's in heaven, no birds, no this and that, none of that kind of stuff like that represents me, because everything that you could put to represent him is falling short of who he really is.
True.
Now, the people that made that golden calf, he checked them and he told them about that in Genesis, because he was like letting them know, or Exodus, which one of the two, I believe. Exodus,
yeah. Exodus.
And he was letting them know, and he pointed out, I forget it was 2 different guys that he was letting them know that y'all built this calf to them. Y'all didn't build that towards me. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't want to even deal with him. They going through Moses to talk to God because they was even scared of him. You know what I'm saying? But they looking at something that's making graven images and worshiping that is not worshiping God. You know what I'm saying? People have crosses because sometimes people think that that's what Christ was crucified on. Like I said earlier, could have been a stake, could have been a cross. I've heard it as a tree, but I want to nail in, and I don't want to sound like a broken record. This is the main reason. The thing that he's considering us following him on is the faith that he did what he did. Because we live on earth where people go, I just watched a football game where the same dudes that was on the field wearing them Foot Locker clothes, they had to go they had to go back and look at a TV. Because both of them seen the same thing, but both of them had different interpretations. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it could happen like that. But let's not lose focus on the main thing. And I know my man's ain't. We just pointing some things out. But let's not lose focus on things about what he did die on. Was it by Uzi? Was it by Tommy gun? Was it by a 38? The main factor is that he died and rose for us. And without that blood of Christ, we'd be shook because God would not be trying to hear us.
But like, without arguing, I have to stress the point. It is very important and it matters for people to know how he died because they've been told a lie. So they have to know that is not, just like they were told that Christmas was his birthday for so long, and that was a lie. They have to know that these things are not true, because if they don't, they're going to follow these man-made traditions and customs, and they're going to continue to be misled. If we take the time to read and to do the necessary research, what we will find out about the origin of the cross is very clear. It is no way of veneration. In no way is veneration of the cross a scriptural practice. The symbol of the cross had nothing to do with Jesus Christ, just like December 25th had nothing to do with him.
In the Bible, I know that in the Bible it doesn't say nowhere on December 25th that that's his birthday.
Yeah,
nowhere in the Bible.
No.
What it does say in the Bible, it does mention, in the Bible I read, it mentions cross all of the time.
But listen, Keith, what you're missing is the correct translation of the word. Bro, look it up. Look up the correct translation of this word. They can't hide this.
Mm-hmm.
This is record. Bro, they can't hide. Just like you can't hide the definition of that. They can't hide that, bro. That word In Greek, that's what that meant. That's where they got it from. It meant stauros, and it was a straight pole. So telling people that, because the cross that everybody relate to the Bible is this one. So they have to know, because a lot of people went after that, and that's what they like. People hold on to those beads, and they have those beads and that stuff. It's like they think that like that, but as we move down on this on the show, it's going to explain like why nobody needs that.
And they don't, you know what I'm saying? We before we even get to that, I agree with you on that. You don't need nothing but him. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to, since Christ had came and died, he tore the veil. You know what I'm saying? So even going into, and that was something that was recognized for the priest, because the priest used to go in once a year for everybody's sins, including his, and they tie a string to him just in case he wasn't righteous. So they had to pull him out of there. But when Christ was crucified and died, it broke. There was an earthquake. It tore the veil in two, meaning that you can approach God on your own. You don't need to hold no beads. You don't got to hold no cross. You don't got to hold nothing. That's not even a factor of it. That's what I'm saying. Whether it was a stake, if it was a stake or a cross, or if the form of this versus the form of whatever he was hung in, I'm saying those things do not prohibit nobody from not knowing who God is. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to explain it, so now just say you know what I mean is just a catchphrase. I'm saying that, you know, if he died on a stake, the main thing was he crucified for us. His arm, I don't know how we'd explain it. His arms are stretched out this way.
But the whole reason we doing this, because so many people have been misled. They have been misled and don't know the truth. That's why we're doing it, to open people's eyes, because there is the truth about the way he died. There is the truth, and it does matter because so many people have been misled the other way. And that's the truth. And so many people have been misled the other way. So it's very important to know the truth of every single detail about what's going to save our lives. Wow. We have to know every single detail. That's why so many. That's why we read this book. And
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. When I mean it don't matter, don't mean like throw that out of there. I'm saying those. The act of what he did is greater than whatever he was crucified on.
Definitely.
So I'm saying if
I understand exactly.
That's all I'm trying to say. Not like exactly. It's not nothing else is important, because without that, these things will keep people going. Was it this time? Was it that time? Was it that? Yeah. And whatever he was crucified on has nothing to do with our salvation. But him being crucified has everything to do with our salvation.
Yeah, I get exactly what you said. Reading another scripture in 1 Corinthians 10:14, it says, "My beloved ones, flee from idolatry." Now, an idol is an image or symbol that is an object of intense devotion, veneration, or worship. Yeah. This is why we don't salute the flag or sing the national anthem, and we don't allow our children to pledge allegiance to the flag, because it's all an act of worship. When you stand there with your hand over your heart, or you saluting the flag, what I'm saying, you're basically telling God that you don't worship him, you worship your country and the flag. That's why I don't understand how many people say they reading the Bible and they Christians, but at the same time they walking around waving the American flag and they pledge allegiance to the nation, when you're not supposed to give that service or that worship to nobody but God. It's like you're bowing down to them. That's what you're doing. And that's why with all the stuff with the kneeling and all that, it was nothing new to me, because I never stood up for it my entire life.
No, I wasn't with that myself. They caught me as a kid when you're doing the thing. You're like, you know what? When I got to an age of myself, I'm like, I'm not finna be in a football game doing that. I'm not finna be at nowhere doing that, because I understand it has nothing to do with God and it has nothing to do with truth at the same time too. You know what I'm saying? To me.
And then in Exodus 20:4-5, it says, "You shall not make yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything in heaven or on earth, beneath or in the waters under the earth. You should not bow down to them or serve them." Then it says, notice that God commanded that his people not even make an image before which people could bow down.
Yep.
That's how serious this was. Don't even think about making this carved image, because he knew how it would distract people, and people would put more emphasis on the symbol than they do on Jesus or whatever the issue is.
Word. And that is what was going on.
Exactly.
A lot of guys was back in those days, and still will have any kind of whatever symbol, but especially back in those days, like I said before, they had sun gods, moon gods, god of water, god of fire. So they was just, hey, whoever works best for them. So they was making images to all those things, and he was looking at them saying, you making images of stuff, they got ears but can't hear. They got mouths and can't speak. They got hands but can't save themselves from falling down or nothing like that. That's what God would say. So I understand that, because he's the only one that could be a jealous God. And it does say that. I'm a jealous God. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm the one that made y'all. And how dare you go off and make something else that represents me that's not me. And I know you're not trying to have it represent me. You know what I'm saying? It may be some people that got across that from what translation that they heard that, hey, I'm wearing this as a representative of God. Not that it's gonna save me. I wore one before because I always thought it was cool. It would look fresh to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't that I didn't think that that's what, if something, a truck passed me and didn't hit me, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't go, ooh, shoot, and rub my cross. Nah, I didn't look for that. I looked for nothing. And I understand what you're saying at that part too, because put nothing in front of him, because it could get confusing when people do that. There is some people who gonna hold their beads and put them right here, and they doing all the prayers and thinking that's gonna get them closer to God, when that doesn't. It don't save you from no bullet finna hit you. It's not gonna do none of that kind of stuff. He's dispatched his angels to look after you anyway. So whether you holding a crystal, you holding a this and that, whatever you think it is, that's superstition. And you don't want to be superstitious. You leave a home without it, you got to go home and get it because you think your day finna be bad because of that. And that's, I feel what you're saying, don't get it to that. You know what I mean? But,
yeah,
you know.
and I want to read a quick quote from out of this article. It says, concerning first century Christians, history of the Christian church says, there was no use of the crucifix and no material representation of the cross. So now the next three paragraphs talked about what you spoke about earlier. You know, just to go over it, when you said you know, it says, does it really make a difference if a person cherishes the cross as long as he does not worship it? And this is what it says. How would you feel if one of your dearest friends who was executed on the basis of false charges, would you make a replica of the instrument of execution? Would you cherish it, or would you rather shun it? In ancient Israel, unfaithful Jews wept over the death of the false god Tammuz. Jehovah spoke of what they were doing as being a detestable thing. According to history, Tammuz was a Babylonian god, and the cross was used as his symbol. From its beginning in the days of Nimrod, Babylon was against God and an enemy of true worship. So by cherishing the cross, a person is honoring a symbol of worship that is opposed to the true God. As stated in Ezekiel 8:17, apostate Jews also thrust out the shoot to Jehovah's nose. He viewed this as detestable and offensive. Why? This shoot, some commentators explain, was a representation of the male sex organ used in phallic worship. How then must Jehovah view the use of the cross, which, as we have seen, was anciently used as a symbol in phallic worship? So that's just what I was, you know, saying. That was just, I was just trying to make that point when I was saying, like, this cross started way before Jesus, and then and this symbol somehow snuck its way into like Christianity, and you like, I mean, we know how it did. The devil, you know what I'm saying, because he wants to mislead people, bro. Like because he know God specifically said The same thing he did to Adam and Eve when he specifically told them, don't eat from this tree. And what he tell them?
You will surely die. Yeah.
Same thing he's doing with this symbol, bro. God is specifically, this is an idol. This is like people bow down and pray to this thing. Whether people's like, see, people bow down and pray to this. In church, they got the things up and they pray to this, bro.
Nah, when just
No. I'm saying that maybe you don't, but I have seen people doing this,
and they will.
and a lot of people do it, and they have been misled. You know what I'm saying? Like, so he's doing the same thing. He's telling people, ain't nothing wrong with this. This is how you get closer to God.
And I agree with you like this. Let's take the cross away. The people that do that are going to do that if it's a round thing, a round ball or a sock or whatever it is, or a head of lettuce like they had on one of What's Happening episodes with Rerun. You know what I'm saying? They was head of lettuce. But anyway, people that's doing that going to do that anyway because they don't have a relationship with him. Once you get a relationship with him and start to know his ways and to know what he's asking about and what he is concerned about, you know what I'm saying, concerning us, it's a different kind of situation because you're like, I know I'm not, like what I was saying before, I'm not holding the cross looking at it like that. When we go to church, and there's some people that do.
Yes, exactly.
That's why I'm not just jumping in to jump in or nothing like that because we ain't debating at all. We partners.
And that's what we trying to get the message to.
Yeah.
The people that think like that and the people that don't know.
But specifically got to put it because if it's in any object that you putting ahead of God, or you putting
anything,
if you thinking that this is what's going to get me closer to Him, that's not what you do. He definitely said don't make no engraven images because man always going to lose their mind and start worshiping the thing,
the dollar
versus
bill,
the thing that made it, the person that made it.
The dollar bill can turn into an idol.
Oh yeah.
There's many things. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one of the most dangerous ones.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I get what I understand what you're saying, though, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, these are the people we're talking to. For the people, I know everybody don't do that. You know what I'm saying? But there are people that do it, and then the people like you know what I'm saying? Like this hold on, this I think this is the last little thing right here. It says this is something else. How should Christians show their respect for Jesus Christ? Now, this is what the devil said right here, and this is what people say. And this is also what the New Catholic Encyclopedia says. It says, it was quite natural and logical that the instrument of salvation should become an object of special respect and veneration. He who adores the images adores the person who it represents. New Catholic Encyclopedia. Then it says what the Bible says. Christians are indebted to Jesus for his death makes it possible for them to have their sins forgiven, to approach God, and to receive eternal life.
Word.
They are not told to show their respect for that gift by displaying a symbol of Jesus or merely confessing their beliefs in him. After all, faith by itself without works is dead. Christians must exercise their faith in Jesus. How? The love that Christ has compelled us, the Bible says, because this is what we have concluded, that one man died for all. Those who live should live no longer for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised up. Christians are compelled by Christ's outstanding act of love to adjust their lives to follow his example. In this way, they honor Jesus in a far more meaningful way than by using a religious symbol.
Word.
So the best way for us to show that we love and respect Jesus and that we appreciate everything that he done for us is to show it's to show him that we are living for him because he died for us. And that's how we show him. We show by this way. We show by the way we choose to live our lives. You know what I'm saying? And we don't need to walk around wearing the cross or the iced out Jesus pieces. You know what I'm saying? We don't need that stuff to make us feel like we close to Jesus, because a lot of people that's wearing it, they ain't nowhere near close to him.
Yo, I get what you're saying. Even on that, it's reminding me of it was times when people used to go off of circumcision to say, this is how I am, this is how I'm circumcised, so God's my father, Abraham's our father, and they did it like that, which Abraham wasn't even circumcised. But it's a passage where Christ is saying inside the word of the Lord, he like, look, you circumcised, but your heart ain't circumcised. You know what I'm saying? So you running around with an outer show of peace that this is the way you can show it like that, but your heart is black. You know what I'm saying? I don't need that. So I understand what you're saying like that. It's going to be people that wear whatever symbol of him that this is, I wear this, so I'm down with him.
Truth.
That does not mean that.
Truth.
It for everybody that got it on or whatever. It's going to be some people that don't wear it at all. You might not even see it. And it's better to show your actions and show, okay, well, I'm going to sacrifice with my life doing that. I'm going to say no to this. And I might like to do that, but that's not the way he called me to live. I'm going to use my outside appearance to show that I have love inside for my God like that. So I'm going to represent him that way.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I seen dudes running around with big clothes. Some of the scribes and Pharisees who were trying to catch Jesus in contradictions and say everything he ain't doing. They running around with big clothes on and things that would seem that they are religious. You know, the hats or whatever else they got on, they got the staff and everything like that. So it is something that he wants you to represent in your heart and in your body and in your mind like that.
We simply need to show the appreciation by walking in his commandments. He knows our hearts and he can see our actions at all times. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? He can see our actions at all times. We can't hide nothing from him. You know what I'm saying? He knows if you worship him, if you're following him by what you're doing. From the time you wake up and from the time you go to bed, he knows exactly what you're doing. If you set aside any time to put in work for him, he's watching it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we just drop these gems to try to enlighten everybody. You know what I'm saying? Open up your mind, even if everybody don't agree. You know what I'm saying? On everything, there's ways to bridge them gaps.
Word up, man.
God makes it happen, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, we're going to keep dropping these gems, man. We thank y'all for joining us, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
This was another short one, but it was some good information, some real good information. But so make sure y'all tune in next time, man. But until then, just remember the truth is always talking.
Just got to shut up and listen.
Truth talk, let the truth talk, truth talk.
It's always talking.
You just gotta listen.
Real talk.